Welcome to the Florida Divorce Podcast, your source for the information you need to successfully get through your divorce and into the next exciting chapter of life. Now, here's your host, Attorney Scott Kalish.
Hey everyone, this is Attorney Scott Kalish. I am a divorce and family lawyer here in South Florida. Today I want to talk to you about the new alimony law. I'm recording this in July of 2023. So as most of you know, or if you don't know, on July 1st, 2023, a brand new alimony law went into effect, right? Governor DeSantis signed the alimony reform, that's been pending for quite a while in Tallahassee. For the last 10 years, the legislature has been trying to make changes to alimony. And finally, right, I think July 1st fell on a Saturday. On a Friday evening, Governor DeSantis finally signed it into law. And there's big changes here in Florida, right? So on this episode of the podcast, I want to narrow in and focus on one aspect of the alimony law, right? And that's calculating the amount of alimony under the new law, right? So before the alimony reform, right, before July 1st, 2023, we would calculate amount by focusing on the spouse asking for alimony, right? Their need, right? We would look at whether or not they can go out into the workforce, earn an income, and is that income, right? Would that income be enough to, satisfy their need, right? And we looked at need as, as like sort of a sliding scale. It was very, it was a gray area, very dynamic. And we would look at, the length of the marriage and the standard of living during the marriage. And we would see whether or not they could make a claim for alimony, right? So, or we would look at what their need was rather. So that has now changed somewhat. There is a new law, a new aspect of the law that really caps the amount of alimony that could be awarded to the requesting spouse, right? And that cap is as follows, right? The number, the actual number, the monthly number that one spouse will have to pay to the other spouse will be the lesser of these two amounts, right? So whichever amount is less, the alimony number will be, right? So first is need. One way to calculate it is still need, right? Looking at what the spouse's monthly need is, right? Their deficit. Or the alimony law tells us to calculate 35% of the difference between the parties' net incomes, right? So let me give you an example. Let's suppose that the husband in this hypothetical makes $150,000 net per year, and the wife makes $75,000 net, right? So let's just say, for purposes of this example, wife makes half of what husband makes net. The difference there is $75,000, right? So the law tells us that we have to take 35% of $75,000 as the maximum amount of alimony that she could receive. So that number works out to being $26,250 per year, or roughly $2,187 per month. Okay. That would be the cap, right? Let's assume though that in that scenario, her need is more than $2,187. Let's say after we do the financial affidavits, her need arguably is $2,500 a month, right? The law says that she can only get 35%, right? That would be the maximum amount. So it would be $2,187. That works out to being, the husband, his income would be reduced from $150,000 net to $123,750. And then the wife's income would go from $75,000 up to $101,250. So just kind of giving you an example of how that works. The other sort of aspect of this, the other sort of thing I want to bring to your attention is that if her need was less, right? Let's say her need was $1,500 a month. Let's say that she makes $75,000 a year net, and that at the end of the month, she's short about $1,000 a month in her bills, right? Let's say she's running at a $1,000 deficit. The alimony law tells us to disregard the 35% in that scenario, and the correct amount would be 1,000. So just wanted to kind of give you guys both aspects of it. So if you found this helpful, definitely please give me a 5-star review on, wherever you're listening to the podcast. Also though, if you found this interesting and you really want to know more about the alimony reform, a prior episode that I did that I think was released around the first week of July, it was basically a presentation that I did with an expert forensic accountant and a certified divorce lending professional, Don Mole, right? I got an hour-long presentation on some of the alimony changes. So look for that episode a little bit earlier in the feed. But again, so definitely, check out that previous episode. If you want to know more about the alimony law, the new alimony law, I'll be releasing, shorter, bite-sized episodes, because I know an hour is really long, and based upon the topic, you probably just want to, click on and listen to a quick 5-10 minute episode about, different aspects of this new law. But I'll definitely be releasing, further episodes on this. Again, if you liked this episode and you're finding this content helpful, definitely give me a 5-star review, because it definitely helps me, gives me feedback as to the content that I'm releasing. If you have a question, right? If you have a question for me, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is scott@kjlawfla.com. Again, scott@kjlawfla.com. If you're interested in working with, me and my firm, shoot me an email, give us a call. We work really in the South Florida area. That's where we're based out of West Palm. We have offices in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. Work on the Treasure Coast, Port St. Lucie, Martin, Indian River. Have a couple cases, splattered throughout the state, Hillsborough, Orlando. For the right case, we'll definitely consider traveling outside of the South Florida area. But I appreciate you listening to the podcast, and I hope you have a great rest of your day or evening. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Florida Divorce Podcast. To learn the 10 secrets behind every successful divorce, visit floridadivorcepodcast.com. If you'd like Scott's help in your divorce case, go to kjlawfla.com.